From our Chicago studios, this is the Muslim News on Muslim Network TV. Assalamu alaikum, I'm Samana Siddiqui. Our top story tonight. Rutgers University's New Brunswick chapter of Students for Justice in Palestine has been suspended. The group was notified Monday that this was for what the school called disruptive and disorderly conduct and failure to comply with university or civil authority. Students for Justice in Palestine, or SJP, is a student activist network of campus groups organizing for the liberation of Palestine. Since October 7th, SJP groups have organized actions, including walkouts, teach-ins, vigils, and marches across the country to demand a ceasefire in Gaza. On October 25th, hundreds of students participated in an SJP-organized national walkout against U.S.-funded genocide. Student leaders called for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza and for universities to support the movement for boycott, divestments, and sanctions against Israel. The Intercept reports that after the national walkout, the U.S. Senate passed a unanimous resolution condemning what it called anti-Israel, pro-Hamas student groups across the country. In response to pro-Palestine student organizing, universities have cracked down on SJP groups on their campuses. In Bergen County, New Jersey, a contentious anti-Hamas billboard on Route 80 has been taken down after more than 100 complaints labeling it as hate speech. The billboard, which read, "Oh, don't be naive, Hamas would chop your head off too," was part of a national campaign by the group Jew Belong, known for its provocative messaging. The group claims to combat anti-Semitism and promote what it calls joyous Judaism. Progressive groups criticize Jew Belong's co-founder Archie Gottsman for controversial comments and associations. In response, billboards addressing Israel's aggression have emerged across the U.S. The UN says almost 1.9 million people in Gaza have been uprooted by the violence, and more than half have sought safety in the southern town of Rafah. Overnight airstrikes in southern Gaza have killed at least 27 people in 2 residential buildings, Palestinian news agency Wafa reports. Amid the chaos, the Israeli army ordered the evacuation of Kamal Adwan Hospital in northern Gaza and arrested its director and around 70 medical staff. The Palestinian Ministry of Education has also revealed that over 3,000 students have been killed and 5,700 have been injured in Gaza and the West Bank since October 7th. The UN Refugee Agency reports that 288 Palestinians taking refuge in its facilities in Gaza have been killed. Heavy rains and cold winds have worsened the situation for displaced Palestinian families, with some lacking proper shelters and warm clothing. Israel's National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir has ignited controversy by sharing a video of Israeli soldiers performing Jewish rituals inside a mosque in the West Bank city of Jenin. The video shows a soldier reciting the Shema Yisrael prayer over the mosque's loudspeaker, but the exact location remains unspecified. There has been no official comment from the Israeli military on the incident. Israel expanded its military operations to Jenin in the West Bank, killing at least 11 Palestinians on Thursday. Doctors Without Borders reports the killing of an unarmed teenage boy inside the Khalil Suleiman hospital compound. Israeli media report that Israel's army has destroyed 192 mosques since October 7th. It has also destroyed large parts of Gaza's oldest mosque, the Ahmadi Mosque in Gaza City, as well as the Church of St. Porphyrius, thought to be the third oldest church in the entire world. Amid Israel's aggression on Gaza, concerns have been raised about the accuracy of mortality reporting by Gaza's health ministry. However, a study conducted by the respected health journal The Lancet has found no evidence of inflated mortality rates in the health ministry reports. Historically, Gaza health officials have provided accurate mortality data with only minor discrepancies compared to independent UN analyses in previous conflicts. To assess current reporting accuracy, the Lancet study compared Ministry of Health mortality reports with data from the UN Relief and Works Agency for Palestine Refugees, or UNRWA. The analysis revealed similar trends until a spike in UNRWA staff deaths occurred on October 26th. This spike coincided with a decrease in Gaza hospital services and reporting capacity, possibly leading to underreported deaths. However, the study found the health ministry mortality rates were lower than those for UNRWA staff, contradicting claims of numbers inflation. The study emphasizes the importance of humanitarian efforts to save civilian lives, ensuring access to essential supplies like medical resources, food, water, and fuel. A recent poll has unveiled a significant increase in the popularity of Hamas in the aftermath of Israel's air and ground invasion of Gaza. The poll was conducted by the Palestinian Center for Policy and Survey Research. It shows more than 90% of Palestinians do not believe Hamas fighters were responsible for the killing of Israeli women and children on October 7th during their attack on southern Israel. The survey also highlights Hamas still lacks the support of the overwhelming majority of Palestinians. If new parliamentary elections are held, only 69% of respondents expressed willingness to participate, with Fatah receiving 19% and Hamas securing 51% of votes. Notably, 25% remained undecided about their choice. In 3 months, Hamas's support has risen from 34% to 52% in Gaza and from 24% to 50% in the West Bank. Conversely, support for Fatah has decreased during this period. The survey also reveals a spike in support for armed struggle, with more than 60% believing it is the best means to end the Israeli occupation. Calls for the dissolution of the Palestinian Authority and President Mahmoud Abbas's resignation have also intensified. Marwan Barghouti, a Fatah leader, remains the most popular figure among Palestinians. Chicagoans converged on a city council meeting demanding an immediate ceasefire in Gaza. Crowds began assembling well before the scheduled start time on Wednesday. Tensions flared as more than 100 people clamored to enter the council chambers. Many in the crowd had come to ensure their voices were heard regarding Israel's war on Palestine. The U.S. Palestinian Community Network in Chicago, in collaboration with several Chicago groups, held a press conference at City Hall. Their collective plea was for the council to support a resolution calling for a ceasefire. Mayor Brandon Johnson urged those assembled for quiet support, warning disruptive behavior could result in removal. Google employees protest company's ties to Israel. Details after the break, so stay tuned, and we'll be right back. Welcome back. In a bold move for greater climate accountability, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres convened what is being described as a no-nonsense climate summit on Wednesday. Major carbon emitters such as China, the United States, the UK, Japan, and India were not invited to the deliberations. By emphasizing concrete action over symbolic displays, the summit prioritized nations with tangible plans to achieve net zero greenhouse gas emissions. Of the G20 nations, only Brazil, Canada, France, Germany, and South Africa were included in the list of speakers. The decision to exclude China and the U.S., the two largest emitters of greenhouse gases, came after Guterres set strict criteria for participation. President Joe Biden, who is in New York for the UN General Assembly, has already unveiled legislation to reduce carbon emissions and is aiming for a zero-emissions economy by 2050. Critics, however, contend that the U.S. has not taken adequate action to meet these goals. Activists, especially the younger generation, have become increasingly impatient with the pace of global climate action. This was evident in the large turnout at the March to End Fossil Fuels in New York last weekend. An ambush by Hamas fighters resulted in the deaths of several Israeli soldiers, including a high-ranking battalion commander. The Washington-based Institute for the Study of War says the attack took place in the Shujaya area of Gaza City. It involved a meticulously planned multi-part ambush that began when Palestinian fighters targeted an Israeli patrol entering a building complex. A quick reaction force was dispatched to aid the stricken unit. The situation took a turn when Palestinian fighters shifted their focus to the force. They employed improvised explosive devices and grenades, inflicting further casualties on Israeli forces. 5 Israeli soldiers, including a battalion commander, 3 company commanders, and the head of the Golani Brigade's forward command team, were killed in the rescue operation. The White House has voiced concerns to Israel regarding its aggression in Gaza, National Security Council spokesman John Kirby said. He claims the U.S. remains committed to supporting Israel and acknowledges that Hamas initiated the war. Kirby said President Joe Biden expressed apprehension about civilian casualties in Gaza, urging Israel to exercise precision and caution. Kirby reiterated the U.S. belief that Israel will pursue Hamas members while minimizing harm to civilians. Biden advocates for a two-state solution in the Israel-Palestine conflict, emphasizing the need for transparent leadership on both sides. The president's recent statement that Israel is losing global support and calls for Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to strengthen his government have made headlines. Israeli Foreign Minister Eli Cohen affirmed Israel's determination to continue the Gaza campaign, regardless of international support. U.S. District Judge Tanya Chutkan has paused Donald Trump's 2020 election interference case in Washington as the former president seeks immunity from prosecution. This decision could delay Trump's trial, initially scheduled for March 4th. It allows Trump more time to contest the charges of plotting to overturn the 2020 election. His immunity claim may have far-reaching implications and could reach the U.S. Supreme Court. Khan previously rejected Trump's immunity arguments, asserting the presidency does not provide a get-out-of-jail-free card. Special counsel Jack Smith, determined to maintain the trial schedule, has requested the U.S. Supreme Court to expedite a ruling on the immunity question. The Supreme Court's decision could significantly impact the case, especially with its review of obstruction charges related to the January 6, 2021 Capitol riot. More than 300 people, including Trump, are charged in the riot case. Trump faces multiple criminal prosecutions in different cities. A recent World Health Organization report reveals a stark situation in Afghanistan, where more than 2,000 children under 5 have succumbed to respiratory diseases this year. This has happened primarily due to a severely underfunded healthcare system. The report, published Monday, cites a staggering 1.2 million suspected cases of respiratory diseases in Afghanistan, surpassing annual averages of the past 3 years. More than 80% of the 2,513 fatalities are young children. The rising cases are linked to harsh cold weather and improved disease monitoring by WHO. Since the Taliban's return to power in 2021, Afghanistan's healthcare has deteriorated due to funding shortages and a loss of qualified professionals. WHO previously warned of dire consequences if healthcare remained underfunded. Afghan citizens, particularly in impoverished areas, face heightened risks during freezing winters, plagued by respiratory infections and allergies. The UN Climate Change Conference, or COP28, has been extended as countries struggle to agree on a final communiqué that excludes any mention of phasing out fossil fuels. Saudi Arabia and OPEC nations, heavily dependent on oil revenue, oppose the inclusion of such a phase-out. However, EU Climate Commissioner Wopke Hoekstra revealed a supermajority favoring the inclusion of fossil fuel phase-out. The initial draft called for a just and orderly reduction in fossil fuel consumption, which has been considered insufficient by vulnerable island nations and Western countries. UK Energy Security and Net Zero Minister Graham Stewart, while leaving the conference abruptly, stressed the need for unabated fossil fuel phase-out to meet climate goals. Greenpeace criticized Stewart's departure as a dereliction of leadership. With the requirement for total consensus, further revisions of the text may occur before a final communiqué is reached at COP28. That's all from our Chicago studios tonight. Thank you for tuning in. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell icon for the latest updates. For more content, keep watching Muslim Network TV or visit muslimnetwork.tv. Salam and good night.